Hello and welcome to the discussion on classroom discourse, repair, speed, modification and scaffolding. Dear participants of language across the curriculum course, we have been discussing a lot of aspects on how language plays a vital role, the central role in learning of languages as well as content subjects. Today let us get into how the classroom discourse is organized, happens, and how learners and the teacher in the classroom create a discourse, speak, interact and modify their speech and the speed and how they scaffold. Let us see that. Okay, let us first of all plunge into the discussion on what is classroom discourse. Classroom discourse includes, dear participants, all written spoken communication in the classroom, and communication may also happen visually. When I say all written and spoken communication in the classroom, it does not mean just the written text and what children speak. There are many more things involved. It includes thinking of the children, interpreting, expressing, reflecting, agreeing, disagreeing and even debating, arguing, quarreling, and also it also includes the speech acts of gestures, emotions, pragmatics, and teachers recognize the importance of constructive discussion and interaction in the classroom. And if that is the classroom discourse, how a discourse should be facilitated, guided, and there is also life in the classroom. What is that life? Who does what with whom? Let us get into this question. Teacher teaches learners with textbooks and other materials. Learners learn with learners and the teacher and use materials. Materials are used by both the teacher and the learners. Is that what happens in the classroom? Interactions do happen, and besides that, formal and informal interactions happen, and friendship happens, fights happen. So, there is life in the classroom which also guides the discourse in the classroom, and discourse in turn guides the life in the classroom, in the school. So, interactions happen between whom and whom. The interactions may be between the teacher and the learners, teacher and an individual learner, between an individual learner and another learner, teachers and the whole class, between group of learners to other learners. And these interactions happen in the classroom and outside the classroom. When a teacher comes and takes his class completely 45 minutes or 55 minutes, then when the moment he leaves, the interaction, the course of interaction changes, and when children go outside the classroom during the interval or lunch break or after the school, the interaction changes, but interactions continue to happen. There is life lived in the classroom and as well as outside the classroom. So, and this life is actually something which enables the discourse in the classroom. So, what happens through the interactions in the classroom? Knowledge is constructed, displayed, shared during the social interactions within the classroom. I am conscientiously using social interaction. So, all interactions are social, some are very formal and academic. In all these interactions, let us assume that all the interactions are social, including classroom interactions. Engagement with the language happens in all this, and language processing happens. How? Learners correct their language and others' language, use others' language. Teachers serve as an input as well as monitor, facilitator of language and content learning. A teacher is considered as the one who facilitates, who guides through the learners in the learning. Besides the learners, the materials and all other happenings in the classroom. Look at it. Then what is a classroom discourse? So, what should a classroom discourse enable learners to do? Interactions enable learners to improve their language use, language proficiency first of all. They notice language use by others and in themselves. They self repair their speech, monitor their language use and scaffold. Let us go back to one after another. When I interact with people, my language proficiency improves. With all my inputs I receive as a learner in the classroom, maybe class 6, class 8, class 1 or class 12 and even at the university level, and language is learnt by using it for purposes. It is like I would like to learn driving, I have to drive it, I have to learn swimming, I have to get into water. So, learning to do things by doing things. Let me say it again, learning to do things by doing things. So, language also is being used and language proficiency improves. Notice their language use. Learners use their language and they notice it. How do they notice? Oh, he is using something and I am using something. I am speaking the way I am speaking now in this lecture, and I notice my language. And in case I go wrong, I self repair myself. I correct myself, and I also monitor what kind of language I am using. It is with the friends I can be very informal, very social, and I am with the teacher I have to be formal, and I am speaking in a forum in a morning assembly. And this is one aspect of how people repair and monitor their speech and all. And how do we scaffold? That we will come to it later. Scaffolding is a major strategy in learning itself, not only language learning, how we go back and forth and get others help and how others support make us learn better. Look at it, classroom discourse. How it happens? Through group work, pair work, whole class work, interactive listening, role plays, debates and non-verbal communications. Sometimes non-verbal communication, teacher gives a grim look, learners become very calm and quiet. Sometimes one learner shows a kind of restraint or anger, the other learners notice it and they behave accordingly. So, all these classroom interactions lead to a classroom discourse, building up a kind of knowledge construction within each individual in a different manner, individualized manner, and teacher assumes that everyone goes with some sort of commonality in learning. This is how classroom discourse enables learners as well as the teacher to proceed with their content learning and language learning. Look at it, enhancing language use by learners. We need to really make teachers understand, we ourselves teachers, how can I enhance the language used by learners. I am using very deliberately language use. Learners have to produce language. When will they do that in the classroom discourse? Learners feel at ease using the language. So, when they are comfortable, this happens in their mother tongue, their first language or home language. Sometimes the medium of instruction is different from all the three. For example, Indian situation English, and if they are not comfortable with the English and the conversation moves on to the mother tongue. And this every Indian classroom is typically multilingual. So, if they are at ease, language generation in the learner happens, they respond to the teacher, they respond to their peers. Then noticing language used by others and oneself. Suppose I am using a particular kind of language, the others will just borrow it, imitate it, use it, and you also use them in order to answer them. Where were you yesterday? Suppose someone asks you, where were you yesterday? Oh, you forgot. Oh, where was I? Then you pick up those construction from him, you notice the language, I was at home only. And they also learn in the classroom discourse how to take turn. Let's listen to someone saying, let them complete, then let me say it. So, this also leads to speech acts, and when you actually speak, you are actually acting, verbally acting and physically acting. Why we are acting? We are using language for pragmatic purposes, real life purposes. Then it's a kind of act. Suppose we can't say with a smiling face to someone, you shut up. Maybe humorously we may say, but when you get angry, you show your anger. When you are humorous, you smile, you jubilant. So, these are all speech acts. Then look at it, and how do we self-prepare ourselves? Here is a dialogue between two learners. First learner says, hey Arvind, don't know that you are angry with him. Hey Arvind, don't know that you are angry with him. This is first he says, then he corrects himself. This is an actual dialogue. Hey Arvind does not know that you are angry. Then the respondent says, oh, he is a fool, you know. Look at it, the first learner Instead of doesn't know, he said don't know, then he corrects himself. And that means there is some common linguistic repertoire in the learner, he was able to use it. The repertoire helps the learner to correct oneself. Look at it. Then let us go back to thing we said, scaffolding. We have seen self repair, speed, monitoring. Once you are at ease, your speed is fine, and you also monitor what you speak. Then let us look at, let us spend some time on scaffolding. What is scaffolding? The famous idea of comes from many psychologists, learners with theorists with psychological background. Look at it, scaffolding. A learner has learned something, we assume, and he feels, but he needs a bit more support to go to the maximum level. Look at it, supporting the learners to learn above their individual level or effort. For example, I can do in mathematics up to trigonometry sum level or calculus sum level. So, if my teacher supports or my peer support or someone who knows the subject better, elder supports, I can move beyond, little beyond. So, this actually scaffolding helps. How classroom discourse is connected with that? When the discussions, speech, interactions, dialogue, conversations happen in the classroom, the learners are able to notice what they do not know, where they have to move, and something is given to them and they discover something. So, learning to discovery, learning. Learner individually reads a text and finds it difficult to understand and respond to it. Suppose now scaffolding can happen. Teacher divides the class into groups of 4. Teacher goes around and asks them questions to make meaning of some of the words and phrases, ideas. Teacher asks some questions to the whole class or the group about the general idea of the text. Look at it, there are 3 activities the teacher has done here. The teacher facilitated, I am talking about classroom scaffolding, and it may be in the group discussion after the classroom or in the classroom and informally, I could not get that, and what was it? Then this particular word, then someone else says. This enables them to understand the text and read the text again better. This is how scaffolding happens. Look at it, we also need to understand how this emerged. Crayson is an American pedagogue, educator, linguist, particularly second language theorist. So, he says that if you put his ideas in terms of scaffolding, he said if the language level of the learner is I, because nobody knows what is our language, anybody's language level, proficiency, we assume something like that and give them slightly above their language level. That is why all the textbooks have texts in which the vocabulary, the words and the ideas, the language used, sentences, constructions are above the level of learners. So, this is what I+1 theory, and it is known as comprehensible input. This is one strategy of scaffolding in language learning. For example, a learner is reading social science texts or science texts. Many of the terminologies that the child may not have overcome or undergone so far. So, it is new. So, the ideas in context they discover and learn. So, this is a scaffolding strategy. Then Vygotsky, the famous Russian psychologist, he said that he propounded a theory, zone of proximal development. He said, okay, look at that innermost circle, this is what I have learned I can do, and look at the second circle, this is what I can do with somebody's help, it may be teacher, peer or someone else. Then look at it, some of the things I can't do. We can't give university mathematics or university literature, literary text to a class 6 child. But the text which is slightly simplified and someone else supports the idea and the vocabulary and understanding of the text, they can understand. So, this is the major scaffolding strategy. This is how these private tuition classes started in Europe late and coaching centers today also. Okay, I have learned something, but I need somebody's help to attain the maximum learning. Fine, look at it. Now, the very current example of Jerome Bruner, he said the kind of assistance given by the teacher or a more knowledgeable peer or anyone in providing comprehensible input and moving the learner into zone of proximal development. Okay. Someone needs, some support is needed. Someone will say, okay, let me explain to you, that is what the teachers do, and they can put it in groups, come on, let us ask some more questions, what else and what not. This helps in scaffolding better. Look at it. Then what involves scaffolding? I have read a text and understood, I still find it difficult to understand it. Scaffolding is a tutorial behavior that is contingent, collaborative and interactive, by Ida in 2006. What is contingent? Learner's action influences or influenced by others' actions. Suppose I am a learner sitting in the classroom and I am looking forward to someone, if someone unknowingly I am looking forward to someone, if someone explains to me or supports me with some complementing ideas, it would be fine. Then in that case, the particular learner is influenced by others, and someone who gives support to the other actually influences the other. That is contingent. We call it that military contingent, because it is kind of tutorial group behavior, and in the right way, collaborative learning to achieve goal jointly. So, we can put 2-3 learners together, come on, let's try the sum. Here is a picture, describe it in 5 sentences, 10 sentences, then each one supplies. So, collaborative learning. Then most important thing is the interactive activities. You do group work, pair work, joint projects, so which makes them go forth and he knows this, he deals this better. So, let me learn from him and I can explain to him, those kinds of ideas. So, how scaffolding strategies help? Look at it: modeling, bridging, contextualizing, schema building, text representation, developing metacognition. What is modeling? Let us take a look at it. Modeling is, that is the most common thing. Teacher demonstrates with some models in science, mathematics and also in social sciences, some examples, visuals. Second thing is bridging. What are we bridging? Learners come with some knowledge and new knowledge is given to them, new vocabulary, new ideas, new stories are given to them. So, how a teacher does is, he connects with the previous knowledge and ideas, comparable ideas or contrastive ideas. So, that helps, and then the modeling, if it connects with the previous knowledge, it is fine. And also it is important to contextualize in scaffolding. Bridging in analogies of learning visuals really bring the real, that is what the experiments in laboratory experiments and real life experience started in science, and which creates a schema. That schema is an image created, a meaning created in the minds of learners through interconnections. I connect with my previous knowledge, and these are the strategies for scaffolding. Let us look at some more. Text representation: provide the text in other forms. Suppose a text is in point, let us convert it into a graphic text, cartoon, or in visual form, and this actually leads to all these leading to, look at here, a metacognition. That means moving beyond and looking at consciously be aware of ways and means of the task, and while doing it. Here it happens self-monitor in language perspective and repair, evaluate. I could have said this and this idea better. Adjust as one does to move beyond it. So, this all happening. So, you are supposing I am looking a phenomena or a project, means a process, and my language use coming out of it, and meta. In this case, beyond, you look at it and it gives you a critical perspective also. Let me take you back to again. You model it, you bridge the experiences, contextualize it, and it builds a schema, then text representation, developing metacognition. And at the end it leads to, let me look at things very critically. So, look at it: language repair, speed, monitoring, scaffolding in multilingual classroom. We all feel language happens, language classrooms, any classroom happens in more than one language in multilingual countries in India. It is not that only one language, even in English language classroom. I am talking about majority of the classroom. There are schools which use only English medium or only non-English medium Indian languages. But here the repair, speed, monitoring and scaffolding is much more natural, easier, contextualized when the classrooms have more than 2 languages or 3 or 4 languages. So, all the languages are used, learners interact in many languages, teachers use more than one language, of course, teachers themselves, particularly in English medium or any medium, they move to English and maybe Hindi or Tamil, Malayalam or Mizo, whatever language, move back and come to this. Does this help or hamper? I have not put the other word. Does this help? And research has proved that multilingual classrooms are multicultural, diversity is respected, and children come with multi competencies. The multilingual repertoire of learners, how to make use of them. Learners have a lot of languages with them. Why can't I use it in the classroom? So, many languages are used concurrently, means it is not that we will tell the learners, okay, let me translate to another language. No. So, I am speaking in English, then moving on to Hindi and come back, go back to again this language, that language. So, that makes the classroom discourse multilingual in terms of language use as a strategy and as a resource. So, let me throw a bit of light on multilingualism as a strategy. Teacher uses many languages, teacher need not know all the languages, teacher uses many languages in order to drive home your point. Suppose the majority classroom learners may have a language, but the classroom may be English or Hindi or Tamil. So, what we need to do? So, he may ask a learner, come on, put it into in the language. This is one. Another one, there are the same language, many languages are available in the classroom, make use of it as a resource. This is how it is said. For example, let me give an example. A story is narrated in a particular language, let us say Hindi. Then it is ask another child who knows Sindhi or Urdu or Marathi to say the whole, tell the whole story into in the language, but not necessarily one-to-one translation, just summary of it. So, this is how strategy as a resource multilingualism helps. Look at it. When we have seen how learners, any human being learner is capable of self monitoring, self repairing in the process of learning new language, new ideas as well as languages, then they move on to increase their, this is we call it additive bilingualism. I know one language or 2 languages, I am interacting in the classroom with many more learners, and some new language comes. I am acquiring it, learning it without being even making any deliberate efforts. So, these multilingual classrooms actually promote multicultural understanding. I am understanding the other without even knowing. Then I understand, and this also develops the common linguistic understanding, underlying proficiency of the learner. Means if I am good in one language, if good reader in one language, I can transfer my skill to other languages. If I speak well in one language and if I learn another language, I can do that. This is what so far the world has proved with writers, scientists, any sort of thing. So, language is a merit, a strength to the learners. So, now let us look at what we can do in the classroom. As a teacher, I need to understand language learning takes time. Learners engagement with language means making use of the language in the classroom for real life purposes, learning physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, social sciences and languages. Also, how understanding how my language helps in learning content subjects and how content subjects help in learning language, because everything is set, everything is conveyed, communicated, transacted, created in languages. So, teachers, what we can now do is design tasks for learners of class 8th to notice language use in their reading and writing class. I am not giving a specific activity, any activity. So, one is they read, how will you enable them to notice language when they read? Of course, they understand when they read. Then writing classroom, it can be through note taking or summarizing the text. Scaffolding requires another learner, a teacher or a person. Does this make all learning social? Is learning, teaching a social act? I am not getting into the political act of teaching is a political act, because the state prescribes textbooks, state creates curriculum, and we are living in a democratic state, quote unquote. Imagine a scaffolding activity for promoting vocabulary learning for learners of class 5. What is scaffolding activity? For example, let us create a collocation. Learners will on their own create some words, some vocabulary, some phrases. Then what will you do? You put them in another group. Let them create some more activities. This is how scaffolding can help. Look at learners of this course. We have discussed many more things, many things. One is how language happens in the classroom, and the whole entire classroom discourse is social, most of the time informal and half of the time may be formal, which enables the learner to use language in groups and repair themselves if they are not and if they are not doing the language well, means speaking the word with fluency and accuracy, and they monitor their own speech and they modify their speech and scaffold themselves, or the classroom needs to provide scaffolding activities in order to enable them to use language well. At the end of the day, we expect learners to make meaning in the classroom, make meaning out of the inputs they receive. What are the inputs? Inputs are those: the teacher's language, ideas, textbook, what else? Peer interaction. That interaction, these inputs lead to all kind of language production. We call, that's what Chomsky call it performance of the language. So, if I have ideas and if I have my language linguistic repertoire, means the store of language basic competencies, basic ideas, vocabulary, how the word, sentences are constructed and how my ideas can. So, then children learn language, use language for purposes. This is what a classroom discourse aims at achieving. So, okay, I am a teacher of language or I am a teacher of science or mathematics. How will I realize that? First of all, let us understand and accept that language is central to all learning, whether it is mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, social sciences, political science, whatever. And ideas are conveyed in a language through the medium of language. In that case, so everyone has to be conscious of language use in the classroom, letting children know that language is used for purposes and language use has some etiquettes, like turn, when someone speaks, let me wait for, give it turn, and let me take my turn, wait for it. And speech is not simply, discourse is not simply very formal. So, dear participants, read the module on classroom discourse, language across curriculum, design those activities and implement it in your classroom. We will see you in the next discussion. Till then, take care.